When the dawn silently paints the first streaks of light on the hill, there is a moment when the world seems to hold its breath. The dew sparkles on the leaves, reflecting the entire sky in each tiny gem. Under the canopy of trees, the wind softly sings, carrying the breath of the earth, the sea, of eternal things that humans cannot touch, only feel. That is where the truth speaks, not loudly like the sound of horns or echoing like church bells, but gently like a stream weaving through the rocks, only heard by those ready to listen with their hearts. That truth, like sunlight piercing through the mist, does not demand you chase it, but invites you to pause, open your heart, and let it touch your soul. In a world filled with noise, the noise of worries, pressures, teachings that you must do this, possess that to be worthy, there is a simple yet powerful truth. You are loved, not for what you own, but for who you are. Your heart, though weary, though broken, is still the place where the light of truth can be found. And today, in the song of the wind, the sun, the earth and sky, I want to tell you about a journey, not to achieve something out there, but to rediscover yourself. A journey of the heart, of gratitude, and of healing. Look out at the vast field, where the rice plants sway with the wind. Do you see? Each grain of rice does not grow on its own. The rain falls, the sun shines, the earth embraces. All are gifts from an invisible hand, from a love that does not require payment. In the Bible, there is a story of ancient farmers who, when harvesting their crops, did not cling to everything for themselves. They brought the first fruits, the finest grains, and offered them with gratitude, not out of fear of losing blessings, but because they recognized everything they had was a gift. They gave not to bribe the heavens, but to say thank you, to let their hearts sit in rhythm with the earth and sky, with the one who makes the sun rise and the rain fall. But today, many of us have forgotten that melody. We are taught that we must give, must donate, must meet a number, a percentage, as if God's love can be measured by coins or bills. We chase promises of blessings, but sometimes, deep within, our hearts feel empty, weighed down by pressure, by fear that we are not enough, that we will be left behind if we do not do it right. Oh, precious soul, let me tell you, God does not look at your wallet. He looks at your heart, where silent tears fall, where hidden dreams are kept, where you seek meaning amidst the rush of life. Think of the rain. It falls, not distinguishing between rich fields or poor ones. It nourishes both barren lands and lush gardens. God's love is like that too, not demanding you prove your worth, not requiring you to be perfect. But He invites you to respond, not with what you lack, but with what you are. A smile shared with a stranger, a hand reaching out to someone lost, a moment when you pause to feel the warm sunlight on your face. These are the gifts of the heart, seeds of healing, sown not only for others, but for your own soul. When you stand before the sea, the waves lapping at the shore, beat by beat, like the heartbeat of the earth and sky, do you feel it? There is a whisper that transcends all doctrines, all rules. You are invited to live, to love, to give from your heart. Not because you must, but because you are free to do so. This truth, like moonlight illuminating the dark night, does not require you to search far. It is right here, in your breath, in the beat of your heart, in the moment you choose to open your heart and let love flow through. And so, today, I invite you to embark on this journey, a journey not measured by money, not counted by success, but by the moments you offer your heart, like the river that never stops flowing, like the sunlight that never stops shining. Let your heart become a gift, not only for God, but for a world yearning for healing. Let that truth, like the song of the earth and sky, guide you. When sunlight filters through the leaves, each ray falling to the earth like drops of gold, have you ever wondered what makes a tiny seed grow into a tall tree, a barren field transform into a bountiful harvest? It is not the strength of human hands, but the miracle of the earth and sky, rain that nourishes, sun that warms, and the Mother Earth that cradles. In ancient days, when people lived close to the heartbeat of the land, they understood this. They did not see the harvest as their own triumph, but as a gift from a loving hand, from the one who makes clouds drift and rivers flow. And with hearts full, they offered the first fruits, not out of fear, but out of gratitude, like a river flowing endlessly, carrying water from the mountain to the low fields. In the Bible, those farmers brought grains, fruits, pressed oil, and young lambs to the holy place. They did not count coins, did not worry about numbers. They gave from the land, from what was given to them, to say, "Everything I have comes from you. The sun rises because of you. The rain falls because of you. The earth lives because of you." Their tithe was not a transaction, not a bill to buy blessings, but a song of gratitude, resounding between the fields and the temple. But more than that, their gift did not rest on the altar. It flowed on, like a river that never stops, to the hands of the Levites, those who served without land of their own, to strangers wandering without a home, to widows with broken hearts, and to orphans longing for embrace. That tithe was a bridge, a hand connecting hearts, the love of God flowing through people, nourishing the entire community. But today, that river seems to have changed its course. Many of us are taught that tithing is a duty, a number to meet, as if God stands there with a ledger, checking every coin. We hear words that if we do not give enough, the heavens will close, blessings will fade, and life will falter. Oh, beloved soul, does your heart feel heavy when told that God's love can be bought with money, that he will turn away if you do not place the right amount in the envelope? That is not the river the ancients saw. That is a stagnant pond, where water pools, unmoving, unnourishing. We are taught to give out of fear, out of pressure, out of promises of miracles, but God never wanted your heart bound by those chains. Look at the river out there. Do you see? It does not keep its water for itself. It flows from the high mountains through the valleys, bringing life to every place it touches. God's love is like that too, never demanding payment, but inviting you to become part of its flow. In the Bible, Jesus walked among broken people, not asking them to offer money, not requiring them to build temples. He touched the sick, lifted the weak, and shared bread with the hungry. He taught that God's kingdom is not in grand buildings, but in people, in hearts that ache, that hope, that seek light. When you give, let your gift flow like the river, to the single mother standing quietly at the market's edge, to the elderly person with dim eyes staring at an electric bill, to the friend sinking in loneliness, yearning for a word of comfort. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman living in poverty, without a home, without possessions. One day she stood before the temple, where the wealthy poured money into the treasury, coins ringing loudly. She had only 2 small coins, but she placed them down, not because anyone forced her, not because she sought attention. She gave because her heart belonged to God, because she believed that even the smallest thing, when offered with love, could be light. Jesus looked at her and said she gave more than all. not because of the money, but because she gave her whole heart. Oh, do you see? God does not count the money, he counts the love. He does not look at the silver treasury, he looks at the river flowing from your soul. So, if your heart is heavy with teachings that you are not enough, that you must give more to be loved, pause. Look at the field, where the wind still blows, where the rice still sways. God, who makes the earth and sky move, does not need your money to love you. He wants your heart, a heart grateful like the earth receiving rain, a heart generous like the river carrying water, a heart daring to love even when it is breaking. Giving is not about paying a debt, but about joining the flow of love, letting your hand become a bridge, bringing light to dark places. When you stand by the riverbank, hearing the water's rhythm, let your heart join its beat. Give, not because you must, but because you are free to do so. Give, not to hold on to blessings, but to become a blessing. Like the river that never stops flowing, let your love and gratitude flow endlessly, touching other souls and bringing healing to this world. When night falls, the moonlight gently spills through the treetops, casting a shimmering silver veil over the earth. Not loud like the sun, not dazzling like the day, but the moonlight has its own power. It lights up dark paths, guides those who are lost, and reminds us that even in darkness, there is light. God's love is like that too, not demanding showiness, not requiring perfection, but quietly touching the heart, inviting you to live with generosity, not out of duty, but out of the joy of being loved and giving. In a world full of noise about what you must do, must achieve, there is a gentle whisper. Giving is not about paying a debt, but about letting your heart become moonlight, bringing soft light to the places that need it most. In the Bible, Jesus walked among ordinary people, those with nothing but broken hearts and fragile hopes. He never commanded them to give a certain amount, never required them to put money in the treasury to be loved. Instead, he looked into their hearts. There was a poor woman standing quietly by the temple, where the wealthy poured money with ringing coins. She had only 2 small coins, so tiny no one noticed. But she placed them down, not because anyone forced her, not because she sought praise. She gave because her heart was full of love, because she believed that even the smallest thing, when offered with faith, could be light. Jesus looked at her and said she gave more than all, not because of the money, but because she gave her whole heart. Look up at the night sky. Do you see the moonlight? It does not keep its light for itself, but shares it with the whole world, from small village paths to dazzling cities. God's love is like that too, never requiring you to give to be accepted, but inviting you to become light, to share what you have, be it a smile, a word of comfort, or a moment of listening. But today, many of us give out of fear, out of habit, out of teachings that if we do not, we will lose blessings. Oh, precious soul, does your heart grow weary, feeling you must chase numbers, duties, to prove your worth? God does not want you to live in that fear. He wants you to give from joy, from love, from a heart as free as the moonlight, unbound by pressure or expectations. Let me tell you another story. There was a rich man who stood before Jesus, asking what he must do to enter God's kingdom. He had done everything right, kept the laws, given money, lived by the rules. But Jesus looked deep into his eyes and said, "Sell all you have, give to the poor, and follow me." Not because God needed his money, but because his heart was still bound by wealth, by the safety he thought he owned. Jesus did not want a tithe from him. He wanted his whole heart, a heart ready to let go, to love, to walk in faith. The man left, saddened, because his heart was not ready. But that story reminds us giving is not about numbers, but about surrender, about letting love guide your every action. When you stand under the moonlight, feeling the cool breeze pass by, let your heart settle. God does not stand there with a checklist, counting what you lack. He looks at what you give with love, a meal shared with the hungry, a hug for someone crying, a moment when you pause to pray for someone lost. Those things, like moonlight illuminating the dark night, are the gifts of the heart, the giving that God cherishes. If you are giving out of fear, stop. If you are giving out of habit, slow down. Let your gift be bathed in the light of love, guided by joy, like the moonlight that never stops shining, no matter how dark the night. There are people around you, the colleague quietly hiding pain, the neighbor with tired eyes, the child on the street with a fragile smile. They do not need your money, they need your light. A gentle word, a hand extended, a moment when you choose love over indifference. That is the giving Jesus lived and taught. He had no palace, no gold or silver, but he gave his entire life, every step, every word, to bring healing to the world. And he invites you to do the same, not with the power of money, but with the power of your heart. When the moonlight falls on your shoulders, let it remind you that you are free to love, to give, to become light. Giving is not a burden, but a joy. It is not a duty, but a privilege. Like the moonlight that never asks if the world is worthy, let your heart give with unconditional love, bringing healing to dark places and finding meaning in the act itself. When the wind sweeps through the fields, it does not ask for directions, does not hesitate, but blows, carrying the breath of earth and sky, stirring the grass and awakening life where it touches. The wind does not need to be seen, does not need to be praised, but its presence changes everything, from swaying branches to kites soaring high. Obedience to God is like that too, not loud actions, the lavish rituals, but a breeze in the heart, quiet yet powerful, leading you closer to the deep meaning of life. It does not demand perfection, but invites you to walk in love, trusting in the one who makes the wind blow and the earth live. In the Bible, there was a man named Samuel standing before a king named Saul, who had done everything that seemed holy. Saul kept the best animals to offer to God, thinking the act would be accepted. But Samuel looked into his eyes and said, "Obedience is better than sacrifice." Not grand gifts, not dazzling offerings, but a heart ready to listen, ready to follow God's will, even when the path is unclear. Saul chose what looked beautiful, but God does not want appearances. He wants the heart, wants obedience flowing from love, like the wind that blows unnoticed. But today, many of us are caught in rituals, in checklists, as if faith is a ledger to be marked. We give money, go to church, sing loudly, and think that is enough. Oh, beloved soul, has your heart ever felt empty, doing all the right things yet feeling distant? God does not need you to play a role, does not want you to chase rules to prove your worth. He wants you to listen, like grass listens to the wind, and let your heart respond with obedience. Not out of fear, not for reward, but because you love him, because you believe he sees you, even in moments you feel lost. Let me tell you another story. There was a man named Abraham, standing on a mountain, his heart heavy, but his steps steady. God called him to bring his beloved son, Isaac, to the altar. Abraham did not understand why, did not see the path ahead, But he walked, not because he was strong, but because he trusted. His heart trembled, but his obedience was a wind, blowing through fear, leading him to a place of grace. God did not want the child's sacrifice. He wanted Abraham's heart, a heart ready to let go, to trust, to love even when everything seemed senseless. And in that obedience, Abraham found not only blessing, but closeness to God, like the wind merging with the sky. Look to the horizon, where the wind blows over the hills. Do you feel it? Obedience is not a burden, but freedom. It is not about doing grand things, but choosing love in small moments, forgiving someone who hurt you, helping a stranger though you are weary, standing up to speak truth when silence is easier. That is the wind of faith blowing through your life, bringing healing not only to you, but to those around you. If you give without obedience, your gift is only an echo, not a song. But when you give with a heart of obedience, like the wind that never stops blowing, you become part of something eternal. The people you meet every day, the colleague with a forced smile, the street vendor with heavy shoulders, the child looking at you with hopeful eyes. They do not need you to do something grand. They need your presence, your hand extended, your heart open. The obedience God desires is not in tall buildings, not in numbers, but in how you love, how you live, how you choose to trust Him even when the wind shifts and the path is unclear. Jesus lived that way. He walked with the forgotten, shared with those who had nothing, and gave His entire life, not for fame, but for love. He invites you to do the same, not with your own strength, but with the wind of faith in your heart. When you feel the breeze pass by, let it remind you that obedience is a song, the rhythm of love. It does not need you to be perfect, does not need you to know all the answers. It only needs you to be willing, like grass bending to the wind, to let your heart align with God's will. Giving, when paired with obedience, becomes light, becomes life, becomes the wind carrying hope to dark places. And in that journey, you will find not only meaning, but deep joy, like the wind that never stops blowing, forever free, forever alive. In the late afternoon, when the sun lowers itself to the horizon, its red glow is like a fire, lighting up the sky, the fields, and the smallest corners of the heart. That fire does not burn, but warms. It does not destroy, but illuminates, reminding us that even as the day fades, there is an eternal beauty, a warmth that endures. God's love is like that fire, burning in your soul, not demanding gold or silver, but inviting your heart to blaze, to give with joy, with love, with complete surrender. O beloved soul, has your heart ever yearned to burn brightly, to live truly, to love truly, to give truly for no reason other than the joy of being yourself before God? In the Bible, Jesus stood among a crowd, watching people offer money into the temple treasury. Coins rang, hands waved, but his eyes rested on a widowed woman, quietly placing 2 tiny coins. She had nothing but those 2 coins, yet she gave them with her whole heart, not because anyone watched, not for promises of blessings. She gave because the love in her was a fire, burning brightly though her life was dark. Jesus looked at her, and in his gaze, he saw not just 2 coins, but a radiant soul, a heart daring to love, to trust, to give everything. God loves a cheerful giver, not one under pressure, not filled with guilt, but one who gives with laughter in their lungs, joy in their eyes, and freedom in their hands. Oh, do you feel it? That fire, the fire of the heart, is the most precious gift you can offer. But today, many of us give with heavy hearts, like a fire snuffed out by a cold wind. We give out of fear, fear that if we do not do enough, God will turn away. We give out of habit, like a duty to fulfill, without joy. Oh, has your heart ever grown weary, feeling you must chase numbers, expectations, just to feel good enough? Let me embrace your soul and say, God does not want your fire to go out. He does not count what you place in the treasury. He looks at the light in your heart, the fire of love, of gratitude, of joy daring to blaze though life is harsh. Look at the fire in the field, where dry branches are kindled. Do you see? It does not burn to destroy, but to warm, to bring light into the dark night. God's love is like that too, not demanding perfection, but inviting your heart to become a fire, warming those around you. There is a story of a woman named Mary, kneeling at Jesus' feet, holding a jar of precious oil, the only thing she had. She did not keep it for herself, did not calculate its value. She poured it out, wiped his feet with her hair, not because anyone forced her, but because her heart was afire, burning with love, with gratitude. The crowd murmured, criticizing her waste, but Jesus looked at her with gentle eyes, saying her act would be remembered of forever. For she did not just give oil, she gave her whole heart, and that fire lit an eternal moment. When you stand before a fire, feeling its warmth touch your skin, let it remind you that giving is not about losing, but about kindling. A gentle word to someone in pain, a meal shared with the hungry, a moment when you pause to listen to someone lost. That is your fire, burning brightly not for reward, but for the joy of giving. If you give with a cold heart, your gift is only ashes. But when you give with the fire of love, like the radiant sunset, you not only bring light to others, but find healing in your own soul. The people you meet today, the close friend hiding sorrow behind a smile, the stranger on the bus with distant eyes, the child holding their mother's hand with worn shoes. They do not need you to be wealthy. They need your fire, a hug, a word of encouragement, a moment when you choose love over turning away. That is the giving Jesus lived, as he walked dusty roads, touched the forgotten, and gave his entire life to bring hope to the world. He had no palace, no treasure, but the fire in his heart lit up all humanity. And he invites you to let your fire blaze, not because you must, but because you are free to love, to live, to give. When the sunset fades, leaving the last sparks in the sky, let your heart keep burning. Giving is not about numbers, not a burden, but the fire of joy, of love, of gratitude. Like a fire that keeps burning, though the night is cold, let your heart become light, bringing healing to dark places and finding deep meaning in the act itself. Oh, beloved soul, let your fire blaze, and let love guide you, like the sunset's glow, forever radiant, forever warm. When dawn breaks, the first rays pierce through the mist, like gentle fingers touching the earth, awakening grass, rivers, and forgotten dreams in the heart. Dawn does not rush, does not demand, but quietly brings a new day, a promise that no matter how long the night, light always returns. God's love is that dawn, never abandoning you, never judging, but forever inviting you to live with grace, with joy, with a heart open wide like the sky welcoming light. Oh, beloved soul, has your heart ever longed for a new beginning, a moment to let go of burdens and let love lead the way? Today, that dawn is waiting for you, in every heartbeat, every breath, every choice to give from your heart. Throughout this journey, we have seen that giving is not about numbers, not a burden, but the fire, the river, the moonlight, and the wind of love. It is how you let your heart join the rhythm of the earth and sky, of the one who makes light burst forth each day. In the Bible, Jesus stood on a hill, looking at a crowd with broken hearts, weary souls. He did not ask them to give money, did not demand they build temples. He spoke to them of love, love for God, love for neighbors, love even for enemies. He taught that God's kingdom is not in earthly treasures, but in your heart, in how you give with grace, like dawn that does not keep its light for itself, but shares it with the whole world. But oh, has your heart ever trembled, feeling you are not enough, when voices around you say you must do more, give more to be loved? Let me take your hand and say, you do not need to prove anything. God, who makes the dawn radiant, loved you before you were born. He does not look at what you lack, but at the fire in your soul, the river of gratitude, the moonlight of generosity. Giving in its purest form is letting your heart become dawn, bringing light to dark places, hope to those who are lost, and healing to yourself. Let me tell you one final story. There was a woman named Lydia, living by a river, her heart open wide like the sky. When she heard of God's love, she did not keep it to herself. She opened her home, shared what she had, a meal, a place to rest, a prayer. She was not wealthy, not powerful, but her heart was a dawn, radiant with grace, lighting up the lives of those around her. Lydia did not give money. She gave herself, her time, her love, her faith. And in that giving, she found meaning, like the light of dawn spreading, not because anyone forced her, but because that is the nature of love. When you stand under the dawn, feeling the first rays touch your face, let it remind you that you are invited to live like Lydia, like Jesus, with a heart full of grace. A smile shared with a stranger, a hand extended to someone crying, a moment when you pause to feel God's love. That is the giving He cherishes. Not because you must, but because you are free to do so. Not because you fear losing, but because you know that love, like the light of dawn, grows brighter the more you give. The people you meet today, the companion hiding pain, the neighbor with weary eyes, the child running by with a joyful smile, they do not need you to do something grand. They need your light, your heart open, your presence with love. That is the dawn you bring, the giving that changes both the giver and the receiver. Jesus lived that way, walking among the forgotten, bringing light to dark places, and giving his entire life so the world would know that love is the answer. He invites you to do the same, not with your own strength, but with his grace, like the dawn that never stops rising. When the first light of day embraces you, let your heart awaken. Giving is not a burden, but a joy. It is not a duty, but a privilege. Like the dawn that never asks if the world is worthy, let your love spread, not for reward, but because you have tasted God's grace.